Behind every successful entrepreneur is a very long list of mistakes, sacrifices, and lessons most people never hear about. Welcome back to The Reluctant Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Mike Conrad. If you've been listening or watching this podcast throughout this season, you may notice that things on this episode are a little bit different, and that's by design. There's no guest today, no interview, no spotlight on someone else's story. This episode is about reflection and gratitude. When I launched The Reluctant Entrepreneur, I had a very specific goal in mind. I didn't want to create just another show that glorified entrepreneurship or romanticized success. I didn't want highlight reels, buzzwords, or carefully curated origin stories. I wanted honesty. I wanted real conversations with real people who didn't always plan on becoming entrepreneurs in every case, people who didn't have it all figured out, people who made mistakes, lost sleep, and doubted themselves, failed, recovered, and kept going anyway. And over the course of this year, that's exactly what we got. So first and foremost, I want to thank every single guest who came on the show and shared their story, openly, candidly, and without filters. Thank you for talking about the highs and lows, the wins and setbacks, the moments of confidence and the moments of fear. Thank you for being honest about the sacrifices, financial, emotional, personal, that entrepreneurship often demands. Thank you for admitting when things just didn't work out and when you made the wrong call or when success came later than you expected. These conversations mattered. They mattered to me, and I know they mattered to my listeners and viewers. I also want to thank you, the audience. Whether you watched on video, listened in your car, tuned in during a walk, or played an episode while working late at night, thank you for giving this show your time. Time is one thing none of us ever gets back, so the fact that you chose to spend it here means more than I can adequately express. This show exists for one simple reason: to provide a realistic and unfiltered look at entrepreneurship. Because here's the truth. The way the public sees entrepreneurs, the way entrepreneurs see themselves, are often very different things. From the outside, people tend to see the results. They see the successful business, the polished brand, the longevity, the confidence, and sometimes even the lifestyle. What they don't see are the decades of work behind it. They don't see the years of uncertainty, the sleepless nights, the cash flow stress, the self-doubt, the sacrifices made quietly behind the scenes. They don't see how long it took to get there or how many things almost didn't work out at all. Most entrepreneurs don't wake up every day feeling like success stories. Many still feel like they're working it out in real time. And that's why this podcast exists. Because entrepreneurship is not a straight line. It's not predictable, and it's definitely not guaranteed. In fact, according to data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, roughly 80% of all business startups ultimately fail. I'll say that again. 80% of all business startups ultimately fail. Only 20% on average of startup businesses actually succeed. That number should stop us in our tracks, not to discourage anyone, but to ground us in reality. Entrepreneurship is hard. The odds are not in your favor, and pretending otherwise does no one any good. But here's where I believe something important happens. If people can hear the real stories, if they can learn from those who have already made the mistakes, if they can understand what actually goes wrong, not just guess what goes right, then maybe, just maybe, we can improve those odds. Maybe someone listening or watching avoids a bad partnership. Maybe someone slows down before growing too fast. Maybe someone recognizes burnout earlier. Maybe someone realizes they're not failing. They're just experiencing what most entrepreneurs experience. And if that happens even once, then this podcast has done its job. One of the things that stood out to me this year was how many guests never planned on being entrepreneurs in the first place. So many stories started with phrases like, "I didn't set out to start a business. This wasn't the plan. I sort of fell into it." That's why this show is called The Reluctant Entrepreneur. Not everyone on the show was a reluctant entrepreneur. There were people who always wanted to be entrepreneurs. But because for many people, entrepreneurship isn't a lifelong dream. It's a response to something, a response to a problem, a response to a frustration, a response to an opportunity, a response to necessity. And that's okay. There's no single path, no universal timeline, no perfect moment to start. What matters is awareness, preparation, and learning, especially from those who have already walked the road. As I reflect on this first season, I've learned just as much as anyone viewing or listening to the show. I've been reminded that confidence often comes after action, not before, that resilience is built through repetition, and that success is rarely as glamorous as it looks from the outside. I've also been reminded that failure doesn't define you, but avoiding hard conversations about failure can limit you. This show isn't about celebrating failure. It's about understanding it, learning from it, and reducing the chances of repeating it. As we close out this first year, my hope is that this podcast continues to be a place where honesty wins over hype, where experience matters more than theory, and where entrepreneurship is shown for what it really is: challenging, imperfect, and deeply human. If you're someone who's just starting out, I hope these stories help you feel less alone. If you're in the middle of your journey, I hope they give you perspective. And if you've been doing this for decades, I hope they serve as a reminder of how far you've come and how much wisdom you have to share. To everyone who supported the show by listening, watching, sharing episodes, leaving reviews, or reaching out with feedback, thank you. This is just the beginning. There are many more stories to tell, more lessons to learn, and more honest conversations ahead. And remember, entrepreneurship isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to keep going, even when you don't. Before I wrap up, I want to leave you with this. If you're an entrepreneur or someone thinking about becoming one, stay with me. Next season, we're continuing these unfiltered conversations. More real stories, more hard-earned lessons, more honest discussions about what actually works and what doesn't, and why. If this show has helped you think differently, avoid a mistake, or feel a little less alone in your journey, the best way you can support it is simple. Subscribe, follow the podcast, and share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not broken, they're not failing, they're not alone, they're just learning. And if you have a story to tell or know someone who does, please reach out. This show exists because of people who are willing to be honest about their journey. Season 2 is already taking shape. And if the first season proved anything, it's this. Entrepreneurship isn't having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask the right questions. I'll see you next season on The Reluctant Entrepreneur. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And remember, be unstoppable.